Welcome to Pride and Promotion, the podcast that celebrates every color under the rainbow and dives deep into the heart of marketing, exploring how innovation and diversity can drive business growth. I'm Joe Federico, your host on this exciting journey and owner of J. Federico Marketing. Every week, we reveal the magic behind effective brand storytelling and examine how inclusive marketing can transform your business landscape. So get ready, because this episode is packed with insights you won't want to miss. Hey folks, how are you? This is your host, Joe Federico of the Pride and Promotion podcast. I have a very special guest here tonight, Ren Q Da. They are a trans advocate and comedian, and I would like to just welcome them. Everybody, just put your virtual hands together. Ren, how are you?
Hi, Joe. I'm amazing. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
You're amazing. Tell us more about you, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty of marketing and social media tonight.
Totally. So, I guess, yeah, my name is Ryan. My pronouns are he and they. I am, I work in education and I work in entertainment, and primarily I work in, like trans advocacy, LGBTQ education for both corporate and kind of nonprofit, and, primarily in the athletics industry. And that's kind of my day job. And then my kind of passion is entertainment and writing, and I do comedy, and I've been on tour with comedy for about 7 months now, which has been amazing. It's been so fun. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of me in a very tiny nutshell.
Well, it's an absolute honor. Of course, we will get to how we can find you on social media in a little while. But how did you create your current persona? Then we're going to work backwards of where you started with social media and how you utilize that as a tool to work with our community, so forth and so on.
That's a great question. I mean, it's so interesting, right? Because I mean, thinking back to like kind of coming up as a trans person and like kind of figuring out what that was, like social media was just absolutely integral to that, right? Because especially I'm from West Virginia, kind of from, a little bit more of a rural community. And, there were certainly queer people in my community, but finding other trans folks was really done through the internet for the most part, right? And kind of started like in YouTube land, right? And then like migrated into kind of Instagram world, and then kind of our Meta platform now, right? And so that was, it was really how I like kind of found community originally. And then, in kind of entertainment and the comedy world, it's interesting that it's a specific live medium that does so well for kind of social media, right? Because you can get a little reel, you can get a little clip, and the internet loves crowd work. And so it was kind of a funny little blend of like both, finding my queer community and then also finding myself in an industry that really, prided itself in some ways on being really amenable to social media, to being, really transferable. Sure. And so I'd say that, both of those were kind of my I guess suppose my intro into it. It's just been really a blessing in being able to find other queer comics and shows that are willing to promote, queer performers as well. That's, I mean, quite bluntly, like taken me around the world, which has been so cool and so fun to get to do and to connect with people that way.
You were saying, in our pre-show exchange over email, which is always integral to, having me learn more about the guest and finding you so interesting, but also your evolution and your growth and where you're going, right? But you were saying social media, especially for the LGBTQ community and the trans community, can be both a blessing and a curse. Can you talk more about that? Like when you built your persona, where you currently are, like how has it been a blessing, and how have you overcome struggles on the platforms?
That's a great question. I think that right, it's so interesting because like when you're doing anything on social media and you're trying to do content creation, the hope is that you're going to go viral, right? Like everyone wants to go viral. And when things go viral, it can be really like overwhelming in both, a positive and negative reaction waves, and I think that the politics of delete, just comments, right? How do you deal with like kind of negative reactions, right? Do you delete it? Do you report it? Or are you going to comment back? That can just be really daunting and really draining. And so I think that, being able to just set healthy boundaries with myself and prioritize just well-being, right? Whatever
Mhm.
that looks like, right? For me, it's going to look different for someone else. Just whatever that means for you. I think that, right, you as a creator have to make sure that like you are okay, right, on kind of that personal level, so that you can actually just keep making content or art or business decisions, right, or just
Yeah.
doing your self promotion, whatever. So I think that that's been an interesting like learning lesson. But moreover, I've been really surprised at how positive it is too. I like, it's like we all hear that the internet is like full of hate and it's, really, really negative. And that's not incorrect, but also I think that it's really positive too, right? There's so much lovely community and being able to find people through hashtags and just keywords. And that's such a blessing in the modern age, right? And
Yeah.
it's been integral for just finding community, and then also in traveling and being able to find work, right, and find the audience that I would resonate with, reach out to a booker, reach out to a producer or a fellow comedian, and be able to kind of collaborate, right? So I think that it is both a blessing and a curse, but I like to think that it is mostly a blessing.
Yeah, and not to reveal, my age. I know I look young, I look fabulous, but I have seen a lot of iterations, a lot of evolution of the internet from
Right.
I'm like gonna dry heave like from the 90s, with the internet.
Right.
And I was talking with my producer earlier about dial-up internet and what those platforms looked like, and I've spoken
Oh, we've
about
come a long way from AOL chat rooms, right? Yeah.
long way,
Yeah.
and they used to be exciting. But I think what, that's a great point that I hadn't even thought about discussing, is the evolution of really the internet. And I think we're living in a golden age, and more like a renaissance
Yeah.
of the platforms re-emerging, um, re-evolving, and becoming, I think, safer not only for the community, but also I think for comedians and also for creators. And it's allowing us, I think, we're at least for myself and the people I speak with, and please stop me, or I would love to hear your thoughts about this, is we're feeling excited again about the internet, especially platforms like Instagram, like we did with AOL chat rooms and the dial up and that excitement, that anticipation of getting on and speaking your truth. So, where where did you start on the internet? How has it evolved for you? And are you excited about where platforms are going to go, especially for the community? So, I think we'll get into that topic next.
Yeah, no, that's a big one, and I completely agree. I mean, it's just like been a constant evolution, especially since it was like, you know what I mean? It was like 2001, and then it just like hit the fast forward button. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hmm.
And I kind of grew up right at the advent of like, oh, we are now taking chat rooms and we're putting them into video games, and now we can be in
Yeah.
this space together, and you can interact with other people, and like
Uh-huh.
I even though I'm not much of like a gamer, I know that that was a big way that I started to kind of like understand social skills. Was both like there is like online etiquette and then there is like in person etiquette.
Yeah.
And then kind of coming into my adult life, that was really, I think, when we started seeing oh gosh, I wish there was like a better word for this, but it's kind of right, like the Reels phenomenon, right? We had Vine and people were like, "Oh, wow, Vine." And then
I
like,
know.
and then we kind of have TikTok, and then we saw
Rest
like
in peace,
Instagram and
Pine.
Facebook. Yeah, oh my God, rest in peace, Vine. I still miss it. I still quote Vine, and now that's like archaic. Like, but
You're
to
like,
me
what's
that
that?
was like
What's
so
going on?
revolutionary, right? Yeah, and so I think that that's been really interesting, and in some ways it's difficult to stay relevant, right? And I think that that's super real for folks because there's like some elements that are easier to for me, you know what I mean? Like I thought that like right when Instagram was still just pictures, I was just
Yes.
like, wow, I
Yes.
can do this, and then it became like reels, and suddenly you have to be a video editor on top of being, a photographer, a content creator, kind of having personality, whatever, right? And so I think that there's just that struggle to kind of like keep up and make sure that like the content that you're putting out is going to match the platform that is really popular at the time.
Hmm.
But I think that I kind of like learning new stuff, and I certainly am very grateful to the young people in my life that are willing to be patient with me and teach me how to use these things if I don't know,
Yeah.
and then be able to kind of find my niche and get better at those things, right? And I think that I used to really angst about, oh gosh, it was YouTube, right? Back when I started making videos, it was just only YouTube. And like, I would angst so hard about like wanting my content to be really good and really like punchy or powerful, or the editing is perfect, or the video quality is excellent. And
Yeah.
now I think it's like nice because like I've kind of taken the pressure off a little bit with myself in content creating, because I think that like, if right, there's that quote that's like, anything worth doing is worth doing well. I've like
Yes.
thrown that in the trash. I mean, it's like true, but also like anything worth doing is worth doing it all. Right.
Yeah.
And being
Yeah.
able to kind of get to that level of like, all right, I'm just going to do it, even if it's just on my stupid camera on my phone and it's not going to be high quality and like my hair isn't good and like it's a 30-second video and it's fine. Sometimes those are like the most well performing videos that I've had.
Yes.
And so I think that it teaches me that lesson that like, it really is like progress, not perfection. It's like consistency and just experimentation more than it is like trying to make something perfect, because the internet doesn't even care about perfect anymore.
COVID, I mean, completely blew that out of the water.
Yeah.
Everybody was home. We were all in our robes, and like some of us still are. Not judging, because I'm one of them. I work from home and I run my business from my house. And that's you. You brought up a great point too. Is I want to tackle this for our conversation, but everybody out there listening and tuning in. Burnout. You brought up burnout, and basically a friend of mine had taught me this years ago. Practice makes progress, not perfect. So
Yeah.
as a content creator with all these platforms available, and we may be pressured, and I'm speaking from experience, and I have conversations with myself almost every day of, I want to create so much content in one day, because there are all these trends you have to hop on, or you could potentially hop onto and work through and everything else. And you basically want to assure that you don't approach burnout. So
Yeah.
as a creator yourself, how do you approach it? You kind of alluded to that, but I want to make sure that everybody knows out there that you, as a creator, you don't have to do every trend or TikTok dance or get on every thing that's currently trending, and just be the most authentic self you possibly can be. Because, looping this back on purpose, COVID kind of blew that out of the water. You don't have to be perfect anymore. So
Yeah.
what's your strategy? Talk to us about your content creation.
That's such a good one. I think that
Like, just
like
get it out of the water. Just go for it.
yeah, no, I mean, I think that like honestly, it's like, yeah, the best piece of advice that was like ever given to me, and it really was like a big shift for me, and like seeing like putting out a bunch of stuff, and I'm so tired, and I'm just like trying, I'm just trying. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm
Yeah.
following the trend. What do I do? It was my dear friend. Her name is Lexi Von Drak, spelled Vondrak. She's a content creator. She's a professional dancer. She's a singer. She's just a creative and just a fabulous person. Like cannot speak highly enough. Absolutely love Lexi. And a really old friend. And she, I was talking to her about this a while back, and she said, screw the rules, screw the expectations, post what you want. Only post what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And that like really changed it for me. I know it's like such a simple piece of advice, but it really did like change my expectations of myself, and also just the way that I kind of relate to trends, right? Like if I see a trend, instead of like forcing myself to fit into that trendy box, I try to just kind of like peruse, what is showing up on my algorithm, what is actually resonating with me. And if I have an idea, if like inspiration hits, right, then I'm just going to do it. Even if I know that it's like silly or stupid, or it doesn't seem like a good idea at the time. As long as it's not being, like mean or hateful, right? I think that like, obviously, like everything with a grain of salt, right? Do what you want, but don't like cause any harm if you can.
Sure.
Post what you want, right? And sometimes those are the things that do the best, because it is authentic to you. And I think that it has really helped me in being able to go through my feed, save a reel, write down a video. If I'm like inspired by, someone's kind of rendition or use of an audio, I'll save that audio. I'll write a note for myself. So that way I have kind of an ongoing list of like, this is content that I think that I could create. I
Sure.
have like a backlog of it. And then kind of on your note of burnout, being able to ride that wave of energy and motivation to actually make the content or post the content, because it is not every day that I wake up and I want to make a video. Sometimes I feel awful and I want to sit in my bed and I want to eat my Krispy Kreme and be left alone,
Right.
whatever, right? And so being able to kind of have that backlog of stuff that I haven't made but could make, stuff that I've already made but I haven't necessarily posted, that's like a draft, and I'm maybe going back and forth on it, but it's kind of in the backlog I got in the trunk, right? Like I think that has been so helpful, because if I have those days where I'm like, oh wow, I want to make some videos, then like I can, and I just will, I can make one video or I can make a dozen, and I've lined myself up for content for, the next maybe like week or two at least, right? And that's so helpful. And then similarly being able to schedule out posts, because like sometimes that scheduling and posting on a bunch of platforms like that really does take like mental effort, right? It really does. And there's tools out there that can help with that, which are amazing. And I'm so grateful to be able to have, occasional access to those. But at the same time, I think that, even more so than implementing those tools or creating a schedule for yourself, as much as that is good sage advice, I think that being able to ride those waves of energy and of motivation and of just doing what you want to do when you want to do it, and lining it up so that way, when you have that upwind, you're able to kind of pay that forward for yourself, right? That's been really helpful in not burning out on those days where I really don't want to do anything, and I'm not going to. I don't need to. I've done some stuff in the past. I have some stuff I know that wind will hit me again in the future, and I can rely on that. I don't need to kind of continue to like grind on the days where I don't feel like grinding,
That's another great point. Burnout is legit. Some days you don't want to sit in your bed and just scroll and scroll and scroll, and maybe taking a day or 2 or 3 days out of the week where you don't even create content.
Yeah.
And you work with the algorithm, which I'm going to get to that in a second, and you save things that you want to work with, in the future. You can can some things. People don't even have to know that you're not creating content. If you're being consistent,
right,
and you're riding the burnout, which, hey, we all need a day off here and there, right? Even
right.
those that, of us that work for ourselves or that are comedians, whatever, right? Content creators, definitely get ahead of yourself if you can, because it makes things so much easier. You don't have to work on the weekends either. You can just chill, and ride that wave of just taking a breather and really coming back to yourself and being like, how do I want to present myself next week or next month or the next year, and getting ahead of that at the same time. But speaking of algorithm, has been, and we know, especially those of us that are on TikTok, which I don't work with, I am on, really for my friends, but I don't coach that specifically, but I've been on the platform, and it's a very sensitive algorithm. And so is Instagram. Both are very still competing, platforms. But has the algorithm ever tried to pin you as just trans or just in comedy? And how have you overcome that battle, or how has that worked in your favor, if that has ever happened to you?
That's a great question. It's so interesting. Sometimes I genuinely, it's so funny because it's like, here I am like doling out advice, and it's like, I don't know how it works. But
No,
at the same time, it's been
that's you
like,
being human, so
right,
anyway,
right.
yeah.
I think that it's so funny because like, and I find this so amusing because sometimes it'll like, I'm like, how did the algorithm determine that this was like the content for me?
Yeah.
Because I'll get both advertisements for erectile dysfunction medication, which is cool, but I can't necessarily use. It's very affirming. And then I'll also get advertisements for breast pumps, which also I couldn't use if I wanted to.
Sure.
And
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? So kind of being between like gendered advertisement is like odd. And then I think that, you know, getting kind of like funneled into that trans algorithm, if you will, is like sometimes a blessing, because I am trying to find not only like my target audience, but like finding my community. I think that that's like a really key part of working within the algorithm, right? Because I don't know how it's going to, judge me, right? I like, it feels like in some ways very archaic. I do my little dance in front of my little altar every day, and I just pray that the algorithm will supply me with, monetized attention, right? I don't right, but like at the same time, I think that while I'm trying to kind of target my community and trying to like kind of create content that is very trans centric and is for trans community, there's a difference between like those two things of finding your target audience and finding your community, because finding your community is like equally as important, right? And like targeting your audience and engaging with your community are indeed two different things, but they're going to like feed in and build into each other, right? So remembering to kind of find social aspects of social media that are enjoyable for you as a content creator, right? And finding that community that feels really good and supportive is equally as important, but different as creating content and trying to target an audience with that content. So I think that was, kind of my both, my lane into kind of trans content, and also in some ways kind of my lane out of it as well. It's like my escape out of it too. But I think that I try to view, if I like hit the hit the algorithm and it's like, oh, did that definitely trans? I try to like take that as like, cool, that's like registering me, being very much within this community. And I also enjoy that sometimes it advertises, Viagra to me, and it's just like, are you sure you don't need Viagra? And I'm just kind of like, well, algorithm, you're trying, I guess,
It's like AI. It's like, you're almost there, but
right, so close, so close, buddy.
So close. Were you on social media before you transitioned?
Yeah, I've been on the whole time. I came out on social. That was like how I came out, which is interesting. It was interesting because even just looking back, it's like gives a record of like my life before, and a lot of trans folks, and like no hate on this, right? I mean, like, however people kind of handle transitioning and their social media is good, right? There's no good way, there's no right way to do it, but like for me, I kept everything up. I didn't delete anything. Some people really like that restart, new Facebook profile, like new face, new me, right? And I think that hitting that reset button can be really empowering. For me, I wanted to keep it up both as like a record for me to kind of look back and see like how far I've come, both in like my physical and social transition, but also just kind of like as like a person, like for my mental health. Like I think that, looking back at some of those old pictures, I was always like hiding my face, and I never smiled with my teeth, and like I wouldn't really post content that like felt really authentic. Like I really was trying to do what I thought other people wanted and wanted to see. And then, kind of being on, the other end of like, I've been on testosterone for several years. I've been out socially for almost a decade now. And I think that it's so empowering to like kind of see how presenting authentically and presenting really out and open is so impactful for other people. There's a really great Candy Darling quote, which is, you must always strive to be yourself no matter the cost. It is the highest form of morality. And I think that that's just such like a beautiful, I'll come back to it all the time. And
amazing.
Yeah. And there's just kind of the trope that like, if you're showing up as your most authentic self, you're kind of automatically giving people the permission to do the same. And that just feels really true for me. And so I don't know, like coming up in social media, coming out on social media is like really daunting, but also I think that it has been a worthwhile risk for me.
And you have the freedom now as you're evolving and in your profession to utilize those platforms to your advantage and to be your most authentic self, but not only in your comedy, but in your life as you're growing, your persona and your business.
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting because it's like, I'm very much a comedian, as much as I would kind of love to have, just in some ways only be posting jokes, which a lot of comics do. And like, no shade to that, right? Like, that's great. They're finding their passion. They're like leaning in. In some ways I envy it. But also I think that in kind of realizing like, oh, wow, like I have a platform. Okay, what do I do with that? One of the things that has been so lovely and powerful has been getting to elevate other people on that platform. I started kind of a series, not intending it to become a series necessarily, but it's just kind of how the cookie crumbled, wherein I was asking people in my life that were close to me, my mom, my dad, my sisters, my partner, what advice would you have for, the parent or sibling or partner of a trans person like me? What would you say to other people that are in your same position? Because it's one thing to create content that is like just for trans folks. It's another thing to create content for the community of trans folks that are kind of around that, right? That's where we need that acceptance. That's where we need that extra support. And showing, parents or friends or partners that are, like we're happy. Like I love my folks. I love my boyfriend. Like, and being able to hear just the beautiful things that they say about like, wow, it's so wonderful to get to have a loving relationship with this person who is trans and in my life, is, certainly just to me, that's just a lovely, inspiring video. And those are some of the videos that do the best. And the comments are just, I mean, they're just like they make me cry sometimes. You know what I mean? Because like there'll be like parents and partners and whatever that drop in the comments like, oh my gosh, like I so needed this. I'm so I'm the mother of I'm the proud mother of a trans kid, or like people that are actively working through like, wow, I'm really struggling with my partner coming out. Like I really needed to see this. It's so lovely to see people that are like happy and in love or like whatever. And it like really makes a difference. Like I feel like it's really actually making a difference in people's perception of that situation and themselves. So yeah, that's been a really cool piece in like elevating other people's like wisdom and their joy. And it's something that I feel really privileged to get to do on whatever size platform I've built for myself now.
And I've seen those videos. I've done a lot of following of your content and your evolution, and they do hit you in the feels, first of all. So thank you for creating those. So,
Those are my favorite comments when people are like, not me crying at the airport.
like
I'm like,
definitely me
yes.
crying at the airport about to board a plane, watching.
Yeah, I love it.
And I'm like, what is going on? Like I'm getting chills right now talking about it. So beautifully done. But as content creators, especially those that inadvertently, rise to the top or, have risen to the top, however they got there on the platforms, we have a responsibility to the community, to people that may be watching, to educate. And in speaking about those videos with your family and your partner and whoever else that's, in your circle of love and protection, right? Not only for social media, but you're doing that to educate. Do the people that you interview in your life understand why you're doing those videos? Do they love social media? Do they not understand it? Like, can you explain that more to us as well about how that
Yeah, that's a
affects you?
great question. I think
Yeah,
that like consent is just the most important thing, right? Like if you're posting a video of someone else, I think that being able to have a real conversation about it beforehand about like what are the implications here? How
sure.
could people possibly respond both in really like positive and negative ways? And like are you personally okay with that? Are we in our relationship okay with that? And just kind of having that game plan I think has been really important. But my parents aren't necessarily huge social media users, but they don't necessarily like understand the full extent of it. But I think that they have like seen its impact in real life also. Like I had it was like the most viral video I ever had was with my mom, and who's just precious. She's just a precious little goofy lady. I just love her to death. And
She really is. I mean,
she's so adorable.
check her out on your social media because
Yeah.
she really is.
She really is precious. And like she's had people come up to her in real life that she doesn't know that have seen this video and they're like, "Oh my god, you're this person." And they just proceed to tell her this like deep long story of how it impacted them. And like
Yeah.
we're, a trans person in their life, whatever. And so, kind of after that video, it was really interesting to see her understanding of social media like shift and realizing like, oh wow, like we can't even comprehend like it was such a big number of people that have seen this video. Like we can't fully even comprehend like how many people, like I don't know a million people. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so
Which it
suddenly
may.
thinking about it in that light, it was pretty mind-boggling.
Mhm.
But I think that in general, when they see the videos, they feel like proud about the things that they say, and that's like kind of the most important piece, is like you as a creator or as a co-creator being able to feel like you stand by the things that you say, or whatever. And also being able to kind of go forward with positive impact, like thinking, like this is the impact that I want to have, and if it has that or not, then like cool, I can kind of like let go of that control, but I'm gonna put it out there anyway, knowing that it could get flack back, knowing that it could get a really positive response or no response at all.
Or
And I think
fine.
that
Right.
yeah, exactly, that distance is really helpful, but also like just kind of like going in without the mentality of like, oh, I want this to be the best performing video ever, or whatever. I think that it's inspiring to see them as a little bit older, right? My parents are kind of like that like later kind of boomer generation. seeing them be able to resonate with that in a positive way, and seeing how happy it makes them that it like has resonated with other people in a positive way too. So yeah, it's very interesting to kind of see other people's like feelings about like how a video does. But I think that having that conversation beforehand is like, that's the key, right?
Is primo. But also no matter how much marketing, budget you have or advertising dollars, you really can't ever go into recording a video wanting it to go viral. You can put certain things into place and implement hashtags in the time of day and really truly read your metrics. But that's what I wanted to say as part of that is you can't just go in and go, I need this to just make me $1 million overnight and it's going to go viral. It may land flat, as you were saying, but to flip the script a little bit more, I have seen most of your videos on your platform, Instagram namely, of your mother, very sweet again, definitely tearing up watching those videos. But let's talk more about your father. And he seemed to have a similar reaction where, he certainly referred to you as his son. That was a beautiful moment that you captured on camera. Very organic, authentic, full of love. You can see that. But how does he feel about social media? You say that your parents are more of that boomer generation, but has he received any kind of different feedback because he's a male and his, how did that evolve with your dad?
That's a great question. Interestingly, right, I think that people have an easier time, and I've certainly experienced this just in like, having been, very like female presenting and now being very male presenting, people have an easier time being mean to women online. And so as much as I think that it's so on, because even the negative comments that I would get about my father were usually on the videos featuring my mom, because it's easier for people to hate on women. And I don't necessarily agree with that, but like I see that as like a pattern, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's been really interesting. My father is a little bit more internet savvy. He's brilliant. He's a software engineer and he's worked in that for like 30 years, 40 years. And like he's just absolutely brilliant at it, but he's not necessarily super active in his social media. He's moreover just like, enjoying enjoying his own feed. He doesn't need to like add to it. And so getting him to do a video with me was really exciting because he's like never really done anything like that. And I think that also added to, him feeling like what he was saying was really genuine. Like that was one take,
right.
And same with my mom. Like it was just like one take, the first take, that was it. Right. And that felt really cool and vulnerable. And it's been exciting to see that they're, moreover, like enjoying that they felt it was authentic. It felt authentic as it was, and they
absolutely.
certainly feel that way. And so I'm so grateful that they've like experienced that as a positive situation as well, because I certainly as their kid was like, who is more social media savvy, I had more anxiety about it than they did for sure. Because they were like, la, 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 the internet's fine. And I'm just like, the internet can be a hateful place, right?
Yeah.
And so I definitely was, a little bit more like protective of them and like looking and like kind of monitoring the comments. Because it's like, you could say some mean stuff to me, but like, I feel like I have to like limit the mean things that people could say to my mom. You know what I mean? Like it's a different.
That's my mom. Back off.
Exactly. So, definitely kind of weighing that out. Like, should I delete it? Should I leave it up? Should I report it? Whatever. But at the end of the day, sometimes, the volume can supersede whatever moral quandary you have. And what's been most exciting about all of those videos in that series has been that it's like mostly positive. Most of the comments are like, it's like 90% of the comments have been positive.
I'm so glad.
Without curating. I know, right? I was just like shocked. And that's so exciting too, to see that, like, because those are real people too, like that.
That's inspiring too, Ren.
Yeah. It makes me so much more optimistic about like people and kind of our future and just the way we're perceiving trans folks and also kind of older people being able to be on the internet and being excited to share in a very beautiful moment together instead of just like tearing each other down or hating on something for no reason.
There's too much of that, good. Especially not to get into politics, but there's enough in our country.
Yes. Yes, completely agree.
Where is Ren's persona going to be evolving towards in the next 2 to 6, 12 months on all the social media platforms?
Oh man, that's the question, right? So right now I'm working on it's like the biggest project I've ever taken on. And I wasn't necessarily expecting it to be anything super major, but the reaction to it has been really positive and much larger than I was anticipating. So I'm working on a variety show tour. It's an international tour. It's like all over North America, and it is called the Here to Pee Tour, and it is showcasing all trans and genderqueer lineups all over the country, city by city, and every single show. We donate a portion of the proceeds to local LGBTQ nonprofits that are actively fighting anti-LGBTQ legislation and ballot initiatives on the local level. And I was like, oh, this feels really cool and grassroots, and this would be really fun. And I'm like meeting all these awesome trans comics all over the country. Like, how can we come together and do stuff? And so I kind of like launched that and was like, doing like a performer call for submissions and saying, hey, if you're a venue and you want to work with us, like, let me know. And I was just shocked. Like there were so many people that reached out, and so many people and venues and performers that were so excited, and people that wanted to volunteer. And like, we had people from Drag Race that reached out. We had like literal rock stars reach out that were like, I want to do this. This sounds so cool. And like, that is so exciting, And so with that kind of being the main project on my horizon, I think that being able to continue to kind of align myself with promoting other people's platforms to the best of my ability in ways that feel good, being able to kind of find the joy in it, right? That's like always the trick with comedy. I think that's the trick with social media as well, is being able to find what's really fun in this, what's really inspiring in this, what's really cool in this, what's really funny in this, what's really heartwarming, what pieces of vulnerable content are going to be based in something that is positive and joyous. That is like the hope as I move forward in like the next 6 months. And I think that, while it is not necessarily as positive a thing, being able to recognize some of the more negative and impactful pieces of legislation or, kind of judicial decisions that affect genderqueer communities, like gender policing in sports, or, just bathroom bills, right? Or being, like medical autonomy, right? All of these things affect all of us, and being able to kind of use the hot button trans topic to talk about it, and talk about it in ways that are more easily received. That is like the tight line to walk, and that's the thing I hope to get better at.
And you will, because you've come this far, and you absolutely will. So we are wrapping up. Unfortunately, we would love to have you on the show again in the future, once the tour launches, and we want to hear some updates and what's going on with your persona and your growth. But totally. I'm going to give you the platform and tell everybody out there that's, tuning in and have listened up to this point, where we can find you on all the socials and your website.
All the socials, all the website, it is all at RenQ Comedy, renqcomedy.com, at RenQ Comedy, Instagram, TikTok, I don't know, Venmo, whatever. I'm kidding. That's where you can find all of my stuff. And I will be, if you're interested in coming and hanging out in person and not just online, I am running the Colorado Queer Comedy Festival, which is in Boulder, Longmont, and Fort Collins, Colorado. That is the first week of October. I will be in Hell Yes Fest in New Orleans in November, and I will be all over the country in 2025. So be sure to come out and come to a show and like celebrate some real like queer joy with us. It's gonna be really fun.
That sounds amazing. We certainly want to be there too. So everybody, check it out and follow Ren, please. Definitely worth the laugh and the watch. Ren, thank you so much for being a guest on the show tonight. And everybody out there. Yeah. And everybody
Joe,
out
thank
there.
You so much.
No, it is truly, we want you on, especially since you said New Orleans. We want to hear about how that went, after November. So we're going to have to for a follow-up on that too. But everybody out there, stay true to yourself. Be the most authentic person you can be. Tune in next time for more Pride and Promotion, and we'll talk soon. Take care.
Take care.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Pride and Promotion. We hope you're leaving with fresh insights and inspiration on how to harness the power of diversity and innovation in your marketing strategies. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for our next episode, where we've got more exciting topics and expert guests lined up just for you. Until then, I'm Joe Federico. You can find me at www.jfedericomarketing.com, and I want to help you go forth with pride and make your mark in the world of marketing.